All right, there will be bourbon. Jessica Fenske, the Forest Mommy on Twitter, joins me tonight. How are you, madam?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And you are currently running for office, yes.
I am so Arvada, Colorado, District 4 City Council.
And my favorite part is now, let me know, is this actually on your campaign like signage and everything where it says, I quote, I hate government and I'm seeking to be in government?
Well, I don't know if did you follow me before I
No,
was running?
that was that whole blow up with that Jack
Yeah,
Poseidon
that's what he
third.
said about me. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to use that because everyone was like, hey, that actually sounds pretty
It
good.
actually
So
does. So it's
yeah,
not on.
everything in my bio is all like all the attacks I've had.
Oh,
So I
that's
just,
good. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's that been like? So is this something new that you just started to do in the last year, or what? How's this like came to fruition?
Yeah. So yeah, I never wanted to, I'm not a politician, never wanted to be a politician. But with COVID and all that, I got more politically active in my state and started learning more. Got more involved with our Libertarian Party out here in Colorado, and I kind of like was seeing the strategies. And what I've learned about how Act Blue and the left takes over states. It's just nuts, right? Like people aren't
Yeah.
paying attention. They come in, they take over school boards, they take over all this stuff. So it was actually my campaign, our campaigns director was like, you could file and it'd be the first one and it would look good and all this. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. But since I have the platform online and like, I don't know, I just was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I did it. And here we are now. I already got one vote. Someone posted that
Oh,
because we got the
nice.
ballot.
You got one vote. Okay. Well, so look, I'm all off my game. There's been a lot going on today, but before I get into the rest of this conversation with Jessica, as always, There Will Be Bourbon is brought to you and fueled by America's Native Spirit, which is what is America's Native Spirit, Jessica? Bourbon. That's America's Native Spirit. All right. And so what tonight we're doing a little different. It's been a while. IW Harper, right? I love IW Harper, usually a Tennessee whiskey. And they do still call themselves a bourbon. They don't do the Lincoln County process like Jack Daniels, which is why Jack Daniels, well, I guess you could call it a bourbon. They don't because they do the Lincoln County process, which includes mellowing it through charcoal. But this is the IW Harper Cabernet Cask Reserve. So it's about a 5-year or 4-year aged bourbon, and then it's finished in some California Cabernet cask, and it is a 100% Kentucky straight bourbon. So while it is sourced, it is still under the IW Harper label. So that's what I will be using as fuel to discuss all of the wonderful ways that Jessica Fenske is running for the Arvada City Council in District 4.
I think are those all bourbons? I think you have
Behind
as
me,
much
yeah.
bourbons as I have shoes. So
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get into that. Well, so usually this is a temporary setup, but for the most part, the top shelf is all bourbon and then the bottom is all rye. So I remember I said this to someone before. I kind of screwed up. I should have just said this was There Will Be Whiskey because then I could actually have the ryes. But I've never had any rye on this show, and I've got a whole bottom shelf of probably 45 other bottles that I've never drank on the show because
I don't know the difference between rye and whiskey.
it's the primary grain when it's made, right? So bourbon, 51% corn. If it's a rye, then the majority grain is rye instead of corn. So there you go. Yeah. Tastes a little different too, for sure.
Learn something.
Yeah, that's what I do here. I'm a teacher, right? So what we do is we teach on this show. Welcome.
Thanks. That's namaste in yoga is like the teacher in me honors the teacher in you. Everyone's a teacher, right?
Everyone is a teacher. As long as they got something to teach. Okay. And you got what? You're going a little Corona vibes today?
Yeah, I was gonna pick. I have everything else, but I don't have any whiskey or bourbon on me. I think I had except for like Screwball or something. So I was like, I want to drink that tonight.
That's still
so
a thing? I remember that was huge for like a year. Is that still going? But that's the peanut butter one, right?
My friend was making cocktails with that, like Screwball and like a chocolate liqueur. So it was gross, but it was kind of good too.
It gets
I'm not. I
better.
don't. Yeah.
So you do have a lot of shoes, it looks like.
I do have a lot of shoes, and it doesn't really match my personality, but I do love shoes.
So where did that come from? Where did this forest? Because okay, so if you're watching this and you haven't already followed Jessica, a much larger account than mine, so you may already have seen her. If you follow me, you probably follow her. But if you don't, she's the Forest Mommy account on Twitter. Is that your handle as well?
Yeah, Forest Mommy.
Okay, on Twitter, big following. How did that come about? How'd that work?
you know, I don't even. So I got onto Twitter at early COVID when all that was
Yeah.
going on because I'm
Okay.
like, I need to talk my shit. And I don't really. So I grew up in a forest, and my family actually has two properties with forests. So I'm
Okay.
like been around forestry all my life and love nature and forests out here in Colorado. And I don't know, it just kind of happened, and then it just stuck. Like I think originally the mommy thing, I don't know if it just was a joke, but then
Yeah.
it stuck. Like even people in real life still call me Forest Mommy, even though they know my name. It's so it's just it's kind of fun. I think I'm like the only person running who has like a pseudonym and a real name, which is kind of
Yeah.
funny too.
Okay. Um, and it's always been in Colorado, born and raised. That's where you are.
I wasn't born here, but I moved here when I was 6. So
Okay.
grew up
Yeah.
out here
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That would be like me saying I'm from New Jersey when I'm not, because I left when I was
No.
5. But no, but I do. I have a really good friend I grew up with. Her and her husband live out in Colorado. I think they have a place in Denver and then like a place out in the, I guess it's out in the mountains, in Conifer.
Yeah.
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 So yeah. So
Not too far from it's like Conifer's nice because it's like an hour outside of the city or so. So
that state is just, the weather is ridiculous. Like she'll send me pictures of just a blizzard after the day prior it being like 85 degrees and sunny.
yeah. We get most our snow like basically in the spring, like April and May typically.
Makes sense.
It's
Like,
weird. But it's the elevation makes everything kind of
yeah.
nuts.
So when you grew, okay, so you've been there since you were 6. And just from way afar watching, Colorado's gone through a huge kind of shift politically. And what do you attribute that to as someone who's actually grown up in that area and watched it unfold?
Well, I mean, it's beautiful here, so everyone wanted to
Yeah,
come
yeah,
here.
right.
So a lot of people from other states like Illinois and California came here, mostly to the cities, which everywhere is basically the cities turn super blue and the rest of the state's red, right?
Yep.
But I mean, I think it's more part of the larger problem with like Act Blue and all this stuff. So they just come in and they vote stupid. Who knows if the voting's even legit either? I don't know. But yeah, it's just
No.
people came in from other places and totally changed it. It's unfortunate, but
And that is the thing. I
why
mean,
they want to come. It's beautiful.
yeah, well, I mean, this has been a topic of many of the conversations on this is, when people leave, like there was an old, my bachelor's degree was in political science, and I just remember an early phrase I heard over and over throughout my time in that degree program was that people vote with their feet based on essentially like, where they end up going is where they want to be. But lately it's been more than that. It's like they do vote for their feet by leaving, but once they get there, they still vote the same way from the places they've left. And I think we've
Yeah.
seen that. And
It's going
Colorado
to
is
keep
one of the,
happening. And
yeah.
everyone's like, oh, Colorado's lost. Just leave. And I'm like, it's going to happen wherever you go. Like, it's going to happen everywhere. Like, you got to fight a little bit, but
You do.
I'm not giving up.
Is that a product of the cities, you think? Because there's just so many people concentrated there? Because I say this all the time. I joke. I don't really joke at this point. I was joking 8 years ago, but now I'm serious. Like Texas is lost. Okay. Everyone wants to trumpet like, and oh, how great Austin and all this stuff is. It's like, and do you realize once Texas is a blue state, there is no path to the presidency for a Republican or anybody on
Yeah.
the, whether they're Republican or not, right? Like that's a reality. So unless people from the Republican side start repopulating these smaller red states like the Arkansas, the Alabama, basically the South, right? And then, or far out into the West with the
Florida.
Idahos and Wyoming. Florida saved itself. I'm surprised because that was this close. I mean, Gillum was a half a point away from winning before a month later he was found in some hotel room in Miami with a bunch of gay hookers and coke. I mean, like that almost happened.
Which no judgment, but yeah, you can't be doing
Yeah,
that.
no judgment because you're a libertarian, right?
Right. Legalize recreational coke. No, it is interesting that like people do move. Obviously, all these people from California didn't like something that was going on, and the real estate too, because
Yeah.
you could sell high out there, and now it's expensive out here. But for a while, their money went really far out here,
Yeah.
and yeah. So the cities, it's like the cities on the Front Range, and then like Aspen area with all the celebrities and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, so
Drove
there's
through that
that's
this
where it's
last year.
coming. Yeah, the blues like which whatever, I don't care, but I feel like my parents moved out here because they were more like freedom orientated and it was just there was no one out here at that time, it was just like and then now Now it's just the town I went to high school in went from like it grew so crazy, and it's all like liberal too now. I'm like, what's going on? But
Well, but that
who
was always
knows?
the thing. Like I used to think like from exactly what you're describing, like people who get like I'm not really using the word frontier, but in terms of like when you're in the wilderness or you're just that far removed from the city, and it's like more of a you kind of have to be way more self-reliant, right? You would think the people that, or they always did, I don't know, maybe now, but the people used to be way more right leaning, right? Whether that's the right way or not, I don't know. But I mean, you and I clearly don't ascribe to the other side, but how is that shifted? Because it looks like a lot of the people that we're talking about that have left the cities, but they are moving to those areas, right? So are they becoming more, in your opinion, since you live out there and see that, are they becoming at least more rugged in terms of that with the self-reliance aspect, or are they still just maintaining that same political alignment and just figuring it out as they go?
I think a lot of people did move out, especially during 2020. A lot of people
Yeah. Oh
did
yeah.
go out. Like even the neighbor. So I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody had like 10 acres, and it was there wasn't a lot of people there that had like greenhouses or pet or agriculture, even though you could. But now, if you go like now, everybody's got a greenhouse. Everybody's raising steers. Like everyone's
Wow.
definitely more self-reliant now, and and it's on a well, so it's all that kind of stuff. But as far as the cities, I don't know. I've even had client because I'm technically a real estate agent, and I've had some clients
Yeah.
like buy in the cities, and I'm like, why? Why do you want to? It's just it's interesting. I think most people just aren't. I mean, if you ask someone to explain what they mean half the time, they can't, right? Like
Right. No,
the
you're right.
buzzwords from like,
Yeah.
I don't know, vote blue, whatever. And so I
No.
think that's a part of it because the government has made everything so convoluted. Everything is bureaucracy and layers of all this. And like everything I've learned so far, I'm like, holy crap. Like, just people don't know what's going on. And that's half the problem. They're like, oh, just vote for whatever. And I don't know.
Yeah, they vote the letter, right? They just whatever letters next to the name they vote, or they vote based off of a name they've seen their whole life. Like, I mean, that's the only way you can explain people like Feinstein and Pelosi and all these people, these legacy politicians who are in their 80s.
I know who is still voting for them.
It's
So,
just name recognition. That's all it is. Like
uh,
that was I learned that from a long time ago in political science. It's just like the greatest thing you can have is name recognition in this country because most people don't pay attention or know anything. They just, but if they see a name or a face that they can, put to a name, you're golden.
it's true.
And
It's true.
a lot of that really came out of the first national presidential debate that was televised, right? It was Nixon versus Kennedy. And what people saw was not what they actually heard, right? So what they heard, if you listen to it on the radio, everyone will tell you they thought Nixon was a clear runaway with that debate against Kennedy, a young John Kennedy, right? And Nixon, let's be honest, these are two very different looking men, right? John Kennedy is a really good looking dude. The people who watched on TV, they saw Nixon hot, wiping his sweat constantly from his brow. And then they saw this young, handsome John F. Kennedy doing what he did. And the people who watched on TV thought that Kennedy was the winner. And ultimately that's what propelled him to win. And so from ever since that point, with the advent with well, not the advent of TV, but kind of like the reliance on TV for our news and our political nonsense, it's kind of become a popularity contest
Yeah,
more so than a contest of substance.
right. Which I'm fine on. I'm like, let's just vote hot people in at this point. Like,
it
oh
would
my.
be a welcome change because I mean, my good, look who's
I'm like, let's be, if we're gonna be shallow, let's like at least, be good at it.
I'm kind of yeah, that would be good because I mean, well, if you go back, I guess Pelosi was kind of hot once upon a time.
Yeah.
I don't think Mitch McConnell was ever an attractive man.
No, no, no. And like you said with the debates, they don't let anybody in the debates, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
like you're just screwed.
it's
So my parents took me out here. They weren't very political, but they were definitely more libertarian minded, they were definitely like Republican growing up. And they took me to a Ross Perot rally, which he was like
yeah,
the
I
last time,
remember
like
that. Yeah, the last time we had a serious third party contender, right?
and like who knows what they said to him though? Like something had to have happened, like to make him stop. But I have a picture of me at the rally, like doing something, like waving the flags and stuff. And my dad's like, "See, you were meant for politics." I'm like,
Yeah,
I
you
know
were
what I was
like
doing. I
5.
was like
Yeah,
8.
yeah,
But
whatever. No, but that's true because and that's always been the argument with and I look, I can't stand the two-party system in this country. We have way too many people to just say, you get on that side of the room, you get on this side. Like I do remember one of my favorite classes throughout was the politics of the European Union, where, you know, the European Union, every 2 years, they're doing something. And a party could start, it could be the Forest Mommy Party, right? You got your planks and your platform, and people like it, but it doesn't quite make an impact. So you got to run again in 2 years. But maybe they're like, oh, well, maybe the branding wasn't right. So they'll change the name of it and keep all of the plank and the politics or whatever. And it gains a little bit more and more and more traction. But there's tons of these parties that are constantly bidding for any type of seat within the European Union, right? And that's how these little segments get carved out and grow and grow and grow. Marie Le Pen for France, she was considered a super fringe candidate very early on, and now she's like the actual candidate of force to deal with from the conservative side in France. But it started as a very small movement, and there's no path to do that in the United States. It's either you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and that's it. And I
Yeah,
think,
we're finding out here, like, because we have to build coalitions because we
yes,
have to.
yep,
Because the worst part about political parties too is so you have to run this organization, right? So you have to have, which is hard, and you have to do a lot of work to keep the
yeah,
organization afloat. You need money, you need activism, you need people to do things. So that's kind of our goal out here right now. Is just we're just trying to start coalitions and don't care much about the party. Even the Republican Party in Colorado doesn't have much more money than the Libertarian Party out here. Like they're
yeah,
kind of flailing, and they have failed because our state was taken over, right? So the smaller stuff is what we have to do, and we have to do these coalitions. And I've just been having fun because like the GOP in my area supports me, and like it's just fun. All these different kinds of people have kind of gotten behind me and like me, and just because I'm different.
yeah.
So that's been cool. I never wanted to get into politics, but now I'm like, I'm so addicted
Now you're
now.
stuck.
Like, even if I lose, I'm like, all right, then we're gonna get right at the next because the next year elections, I'm like, let's get to it.
Yeah. So what does that look like for you though? What do I mean, I think you're doing what most people who have an idea or the calling should do. Like you're not, I'm gonna just run for president. Like that's maybe not realistic at first. You're running for city council, right? So
Yeah.
from that,
And I never had a plan. Like most people start there and then they're like, oh, they want a whole career, right? The guy
yeah,
I'm running against has been in there 12 years.
that's ridiculous.
So it's,
That's the
yeah.
problem right
And I have
there. That's part of the
all the
problem.
like Republican ladies are like, no, 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 you have to run for the state if you win. I'm like, like stop. Like I don't need,
Yeah, let's start
we'll see
somewhere.
how this is because if I get in, it's going to be interesting. It's
Well,
going to be
what do you want to do? Like what's your main focus?
definitely just take a lot more power away from the government. The guy I'm running against a couple years ago, like he was like, we're going to do a citywide trash service, which is a huge sprawling suburb. And it like he didn't want people to vote on it. And so they put that through. And then he almost got recalled. I have the signatures. And then they're like, oh, you can opt out. Well, there's still a fee, even if you opt out. So it's like, I want to get rid of that. I want it so small, that's like local and small. I gotta get rid of that. There's still a ton of development out here, so that's going to be a lot of stuff to deal with. But I want to get into and just like look at the books. I used to be a bookkeeper for a
Mm-hmm.
cash company or like a company where we had cash coming in. So I had to audit things like to the penny, right? So I want to look at all the books. Because they're always like, oh, we're underfunded. I'm like, you're not underfunded, you are mismanaging. And that's the problem, right? Like I said that at a forum the other day. I was like, oh, I'm a little definitely different. Everybody else on that's running because there's a mayor. The mayor race is up. There's another district, and then an at-large position that's running too. They're all government people. Like one of them, they all work for bureaucracies in government already. And I'm like, isn't the city council supposed to be like a citizen who's
Yeah.
not involved in government? So that's been funny too because I like feel so out of place. But I'm like, no, that's good. I feel out of place because
No, that's
you
100.
know
You're right. Well, I just talked about
it's
this with Terry yesterday. It's like when I go through the metro here in DC, I'll see these posters on the walls. Get a master's in government. In what government? And whose government? Like, what example are we using to say that you are now a master's level fucking government? I don't know, expert.
right
Like,
working
there's
in
no,
forever.
yeah. Well, that's what all this area is. It's just nothing but people who, once they come here for school, they never leave. They just, and you see it in our current political structure, right? Does anyone actually think President Biden's in charge?
Right.
Does anyone think
Yeah,
Kimmel is
everyone,
actually the
they're all
one pulling the
puppet.
strings? No, but it's just it's the massive bureaucracy, as you've said, like of all these people who literally are just nothing but pieces in that, and then they branch out to go run local offices or whatever. But these are all people who've sought positions in, like, well, not even just position, but perpetual. It's just they never leave. They're there,
Yeah,
and
they want
they
it for the
don't want.
control too.
Yeah, they
They
don't
want
want
the
permanence. They
control.
want the stability. They want the guaranteed, like they never can be fired or let go or any of that stuff. It's permanent, which it's hard to argue against though on their side. Like when we play the advocate of like, okay, how could you argue against that? Because at the very core of humanity, we want stability, right? We don't want to have to be constantly fighting and killing each other for our food every night, right? We want stability and some sort of community and ability to feel secure. And what does government do? They provide that. And they never
There's
were
no
supposed to.
service, no product, no service, and so much money. It's like wrapped up in it.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
war. I guess their service is war, basically, at the
that's what.
federal level.
So yeah, I'd love to get your take on this latest announcement, right? Because I'm just like, I mean,
I don't have the bandwidth anymore. Like, I don't even have like the libertarian stuff. They're all gearing up for the presidential nominee for them. And so I'm like, I don't even have the bandwidth to think about it right now. Like, I just can't. Like, there's so much.
so they just announced, I guess, the president just announced today that they're going to seek like 100 billion more for whatever in Gaza, in addition to whatever and more in Ukraine. Like, look, man, I went to Iraq in 03 for 16 months. I went to Afghanistan 10 months or 10 years later. I've deployed again after that all over. I've been everywhere during this whole global war on terror thing, and I'm just over it, from that, like this. And I'm just curious what someone like yourself thinks when they see another aid package or whatever it is announced with no case made to the American person, like nobody actually voting and debating on it. It's just next. Oh, it's 2 weeks. It just keeps going and going, and no one's asking questions. So from your perspective, as someone at the city council level, do you get any concern from people in your district or any of that? And then yourself personally, what do you actually feel or think about that?
It hasn't come up with people I've talked to yet. We have a property tax issue that's like the major thing out here. But I mean, obviously, I think it's bullshit and all this. It's money laundering. How is it not money laundering? And they all have the stocks with Raytheon, and it's just like it's so obvious. And then they want to disarm us. I'm like, I've never bombed anyone. Like they're like, oh,
Mm.
citizens shouldn't have weapons of war, and I'm like, oh, so who should have them? The people who actually do war. Like obviously I think we should have defense, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I hate it, and it's just so absurd. It's over the last 3 years, it's just been absurd what they've been doing at the federal level with all the money they've been sending to Ukraine and what it's so weird. The whole thing was Zelensky, and they're all traveling back and forth and traveling. I'm like, you're at war. Why are you like? It just feels so bizarre. They did that like Vogue photo shoot.
Oh God, that was the worst. Like, I
Who
mean,
does that during war?
that is the moment where Ukraine lost me. Like, I was always kind of pretty impartial. Like, look, just all right, whatever. I don't want us to get dragged into that, but you can't. You can't tell me this is a serious thing if that's what the leader of a nation at war is doing. That's not
Yeah.
serious. That's a fucking slap in the face of everyone who's trying to be like compassionate to that situation. That's a
And then you
joke.
find out he's basically an actor, and so it's like,
Well, no,
oh,
he's not
okay, I
basically.
guess
He is a fucking actor.
he
He's an
is.
actor.
And a very good dancer.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a
so all
huge.
these people get placed in these positions, and I'm sure it was planned out forever ago because I know, that whole area has just had a lot of stuff going on for a while. But again, NATO and it's just, ugh, I don't even know what you do because they need. I mean, I know people that work for Lockheed and stuff, and
Yeah,
it's people, so I don't even know. And it's so hard to get through to people that like, especially with like what you went through with 20 years. We were in Afghanistan and over there and stuff, and nothing, for nothing really.
100%.
Like I
Absolutely
graduated
nothing.
'02, so I had a bunch of friends who went in right
Yeah,
away, right then. So it's
yeah.
and people love it. People just love war. It's like it hits something in the people's soul or something that they need to be at war
Well,
as
it
a
would be a lot.
nation.
I'd be way more for it if our leaders were actually there with us, like we used to. Like, I mean, we're not. we're honestly not that far removed from our politicians actually having a stake in this. The Kennedys, I mean, they literally, one of them died in World War II. Like the Bushes, all like these families that people have an issue with. Well, if you go back and look at them, they actually were involved. And now we don't have that. Like none of that goes on. Yeah, you'll get the occasional former veteran who's run for office, but they've never really risen to someone who's making these decisions at this point, unfortunately. Hopefully that happens. But yeah, I mean, what did Biden ever fucking do? The dude's been in office for 50 fucking years. You know, what is Pelosi? Like, she's never sacrificed anything.
Pedophile.
Yeah, no, but none of these people that are like the career politicians that people have name recognition of, they don't have any history of service to this country in terms of war. And if you don't have that, then you don't really have a country, because you don't have people who are fully bought in. Like, there shouldn't be a division between the citizens who actually go and fight these conflicts and the people making them. There should be a collection there. Like, everyone should be involved in that, because then you have no choice but to actually debate it and take it serious and decide if this is what we're really going to do. But if you always have people in power who have no actual, allegiance or requirement to sacrifice themselves, then why would they care? Why would they care?
They don't have to be accountable. I mean, how many times has the Pentagon lost like trillions of dollars? Like, there's no accountability.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
and there's a I don't know if he's Senate or what, but he's from Colorado and he's a vet, but he's always pushing for more war and like, but he
That
votes
sounds
kind
like
of blue.
it
Yeah,
sounds like Crenshaw in Texas.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's I just don't
He's
get how they
disappointed a
like
lot of people.
people just have this. They're just so in. Even what happened with all the Israeli stuff, people like in their minds went to war. In my like, everyone was fighting, and like you have to choose a side, and blah blah blah. And it's just like it's
Well,
like sports, it's team
yeah,
sports
I
or
mean, but
something.
there's a human element to that. And that's what I think, I think people, at least the people in my circle, right? The ones who, they spend some time over, pick one, Iraq, Afghanistan, maybe both. I think people, as they spent time there and they kind of grew up, they realize it's never the people, right? It's the governments. And the governments get the average person like myself and yourself killed all the time. And that's what you're going to see play out with, Israel and uh, Palestine, which is sad, because you got people who just, and I remember this from a very early time. This was probably maybe 2 months after we secured the airport after the invasion in Iraq, in Baghdad. And I remember going outside the gate for patrol, and there's just this dude. He was clearly just reminded me of my dad, right? He had the mustache like my dad. He just looked like my dad, and he was just out there just trying to make a living so he could go feed his kids that night. And I'll never forget that dude. I'll never forget what he looks like, and I'll never forget that person, because to me, like, he was exactly what people don't have an understanding of. They automatically think Russia bad, Ukraine good. And it's like, man, there's a human element to this that you're not considering. And these average persons in all these countries, they're no different than you and I. Like, they're just trying to fucking survive. Like, they're just trying to do what's best for themselves and their family. And if you try and ascribe government to the average citizen, I mean, look at America. At any given time, whoever's in charge, half the people in this country hate them. So you can't say they're reflective of Americans, right?
Right.
So I mean, that's my thing with this Israel and Palestinian thing, which is just round 9 million in like the history of like all of mankind. Like, it's been going on forever. It's not going to stop. But they automatically, like you said, they treat it like some sports thing. It's like, oh, I got to get my Israel jersey out, or I got to, go storm the Capitol, like what was going on a few hours ago, and be all anti-Israel. It's like, yeah, there's way more nuance to that.
Oh yeah, there's an insurrection going on or whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming they're going to do all the facial recognition stuff again and throw all these people in jail, right? Because they tried to.
Yeah. And
No.
CNN's going to be like, oh, they're going to do a documentary and be like, oh my God, all the drama. I
Yeah, I
bet you
didn't
it's
see
not
how
even
that
being
wrapped up.
reported on most of the news. I don't watch the news, but I'm sure the
Yeah, I
news
don't
stations aren't
either.
even reporting.
I mean, I gave up on that. I used to be one of those like ardent cable news watchers, and I listened to all the talk shows, and now I'm just like, nah, man, I'll watch on Twitter, because that's where you actually get some information.
Yeah, Twitter's been like during COVID and stuff. I was like, wow, you get the news here at Twitter first. And
Yeah.
sometimes you'd know like things that other people didn't know because the news wouldn't report
They
on
won't
it,
go,
right?
yeah.
Like a mass shooter in Memphis, but he was black. And then like, no, they don't talk
Yeah, you
about
don't
that
get that
stuff.
because that doesn't fit the narrative, right?
Yeah, Twitter's great. Or that the guy who ran into the parade. I remember like I saw
Yes.
that right after
What?
like right then,
Yeah, and it was never actually really reported on. Like,
It was a nutso story because the guy like went to a guy's house. Like it was just a crazy house like story, and I just never talked about it. It was more what happened on January 6th was much more dangerous and everything. So can't talk about a guy running into a freaking parade.
running
How's that
over
not
people.
terrorism? How's that not terrorism?
Well, I mean, if well, he was a black American running over white people, and that's not a hate crime because he's not white running over
Yeah,
black
and I think he even
Americans.
had like which whatever, I don't care, but
Yeah,
he was like a black nationalist or whatever,
yeah,
and like so it's like
it
imagine if a white
totally.
person did that.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It didn't fit the narrative, so you don't get to hear the coverage of it. But let's go to Kyle Rittenhouse, and oh my God, people still think he killed black people.
Hmm?
Like they literally think that.
Have you heard the name Johnny Hurley by chance?
I haven't. Tell me about him.
So out here in Arvada, in our little like we have a little downtown area of like two two-story kind of brick buildings, and there was a mass shooter came to the like square like a
Oh shit.
psycho, an older dude all decked out with his stuff. He shot a cop, killed a cop, and then this guy named Johnny Hurley was at the store, ran out. Johnny was an activist forever, kind of more anarchist, but he was anti-vaccines and stuff like that. Johnny ran out, took down the mass shooter, and so this is June 2021. Took down the mass shooter, went over to disarm the his gun, take the mag out. Well, when he was doing that, then other cops showed up and shot Johnny and killed him. So Johnny
What?
died. Yeah, see, no one knows about this. No one knows about it.
What the?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was sad. So I've made friends with all his friends and his family, and they actually just settled a lawsuit just 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, finally. But yeah, they didn't say anything. George Floyd was killed by a cop, and that they're burning this everything down. But here's a man who actually stopped the mass shooters, which they're always talking about, right? And like he
What
saved he saved our town. He was a real hero. He went out there in like a t-shirt and Vans and nothing,
What year
and
was this?
June 2021.
Can
And
you
they didn't
send
fire the
me like?
cop.
Yeah, I need to. Can just to remind me. Can you just send me everything on that? I'm going to make this a
Yeah.
very large
Yeah, Fort
issue.
Fisher like did a lot like
What the
so
fuck?
it's
Johnny Hurley.
it was awful. It was terrible, and no one knew about it because as soon as the cop died, it became all about they knew a cop shot
Yeah.
Johnny. It was all about those. It was all sad about the cop dying, which it was sad, and that he was actually a good cop. He was like he worked at the junior high. All the kids loved him. He was a
Yeah.
great
School
cop.
resource officer. Yeah.
And
Cool.
so, yeah, and what was funny is so it's in a downtown area, cameras everywhere. So they had plenty of footage and everything and witnesses. And they didn't release any of that until the house trial when no one would be paying attention.
Oh,
So like, and then they didn't fire the cop or nothing. And our police force is fucked out here. That's something else I want to work on. If I got on city council, I'm like, they're down 50 officers and there's putting out laws. They're having to settle shit all the time, like for bad shoots and whatever, and beating people up. I'm like, we need to figure something out, like, because our city's growing and it's
yeah.
part of the part that's closer to Denver has a lot more homeless, which isn't my district, but we have to figure
Oh
this
my
stuff
God. Yeah.
out. So
I mean, so I was
yeah, I'll
just.
send you about Johnny. He's a hero.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Like,
Yeah. Please do. Well, no, you make a great point because the friend I mentioned, I visited her. I've driven across this great country twice or three times in the last 3 winters. 2020. Was 2020? Yeah, 2020. Stopped there. No real issues in Denver when I visited them. But then this last time, because they have a place downtown, I'll always stop there and stay, and we'll go
Tent
walk.
City.
Yeah, we'll go walk to dinner or something. And man, even this was it was probably January 3rd of this year. And they had just had a huge fucking blizzard. Like it was cold as it was fucking freezing. Ice everywhere, but there's still homeless people everywhere in Denver. Everywhere. And I didn't see that 2 years ago. Like, this is an example of just every major, like, because I was in California, coming from there, San Francisco, Sacramento. Like, these are not normal homeless people. They're fucking mentally ill. They're fucking violent. They're super
They're
aggressive.
feral. They're feral.
They're
Like I
feral
don't mean
and
that in a mean
aggressive.
way because they survive a lot better than me. I could
Yeah,
survive on the streets,
it's
right?
true. Well, I think anybody, has that ability to adapt, right? So if you're forced in that situation, you'll probably figure something out. But
I don't know, man. Fair, but it's nuts down there, and it did get a lot worse, and it's still growing down. Like they're building a ton, and there's a new mayor down there, and they're buying hotels to put them in. And I don't know
solution,
what
like,
you
what
do
is
with
that?
like those kind of people.
Like, but how, like, the same thing that we were just talking about with New York and Mayor Adams, and I'm gonna just use these hotels to put all these like, is
They
that
need the free. They
is
need
that
the
eminent
private
domain or
market.
what? Like, what the, how does that legal? Like, to just, it's just weird.
Yeah,
It's not tenable. Like, you can't continue to do this. There has to be some sort of, you know, and I keep trying to always say, like, the pendulum always swings back from wherever it's at. I mean, you would think at some point in this country we're going to get very fucking hardcore conservative again at some point, or else there's just not going to be anything left.
yeah,
It's just
and
going to be
I
a
don't.
bunch of
There's so
individual
many,
states.
and the immigrants coming in. So Denver was a sanctuary city, and just the other week the governor's like, "Stop, like, stop sending them here and stuff." It's like I
Well,
don't know
you
what's
asked
going
for
on.
it.
I don't. It's all that stuff's weird. I'm like, how are these people from terrible situations all have phones? They're all in huge
Right.
groups. They're
Yes.
all moving
They're
in
all
huge
organized.
groups. And there's so many men, like the ones in New
Yes.
York. It's all a ton of men. Like, where are the families? It's just
Yeah,
everything
they
is
left
so.
them. They absolutely left them to come here. No, I just wish I just wish we would have honest, but you can't get an honest response from the people in charge, because at the same time they're going to send another 100 billion to the fucking Ukraine and wherever.
And it's an industry to them. The homeless is an industry, like
Of
California
course.
and Denver too. Like there's people making six figures a year. Why would they fix it? They have a great job. So why would they fix it?
Never stops. It just never
It's wild.
stops.
Yeah, Denver. I used to go downtown a lot, and then COVID hit and all that, and then I, I'm rarely. We have one thing we do a Liberty group down there a lot, and I go like a drive. It's like I'm such like your typical white bitch. I'm like, but they're like, so one guy like built this like chimney out of rocks and was cooking on it. Like,
That's what, but see, at least that's like resourceful, because
yeah.
he's not.
And
What
there
would he?
is resources and help for the people who want it, right? But you
Oh yeah,
can't. A lot of them
yeah, yeah,
can't bring stuff into the shelters. So
yeah.
there's and these people all they have is like this much stuff. That's their whole world and their
Right.
whole life, right?
Yeah.
So they're not. And then if you're really sick, like or just super addicted, and I don't know, man. I don't know what you do.
Well, that
It's
is a good question. That's a good segue, because you are a libertarian. So I'm just curious, how does that fit your belief structure? Because most
like
people assume
helping
that.
the homeless
Well,
or
no,
what to
most
do.
people just assume the libertarians just want everyone to have access to drugs and do whatever they want.
I like that's it. If you, I want self sufficiency and self responsibility, right? I know plenty of people who can do blow and they're fine, but there's all this stuff where they are not, right? It ruins your life, and there is a lot of stuff that ruins your life. But I mean, this stuff isn't even legal, and it's ruining their life. So what? I just don't want the jails filled up with like stupid drug crimes, right? That would be kind of
Mhm.
my libertarian thing. Um, but I don't know what you do with those kind of drugs where it makes the people into like zombies,
Yeah.
and I don't want them to do those kind, but if you're also I'm like they're gonna do that and tap out, then I don't know. I don't know. But I know if the government wasn't stealing so much goddamn money from us, there'd be more charities out there. There would be more people able to help. Because all these people who work in government, like we talked, all those people who move up, they're not offering their homes. They're
Oh
not,
no, absolutely not. No,
they're
there's no altruism when it comes to that at all. It's just
no.
yeah, no.
That's
Well,
what
you
I hate
remember
about
when they
that.
dropped them all off in front of like the vice president's mansion out here in DC. What was it, last year? Or even in
It
um
was what's it, Martha's Vineyard, right? Is
yeah,
that where they
like,
dropped
yeah,
them? They're like, no,
I
no,
go up
no.
there. Yeah, I think I had just left last year when they sent them there, when they showed up, and I thought it was kind of funny, but in all honesty, like, Martha's Vineyard's not like, I don't it's a very there's that like touristy vibe where you get a lot of people from this area, but there's a lot of people from that area that are just, they're just normal, hardworking Americans. Like that's, you're picking on the wrong people in that, in my opinion,
Right.
based on
It should
my
go to
experience.
government. Like that's what we were
Yeah.
thinking out. We're trying to think like, what could we do? Could we pay for a bus to send it to our governor's one of his mansions?
I
Like
think they should drop them all off at the fucking Capitol. They can go protest with the anti-Israeli folks tonight. It'd be great.
like
That's what they
what?
should do. Just drop them off more in DC. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, that it's true. That's where all the
That's
money
where it
is.
should
That's where
be.
they
Yeah.
should go.
I agree. Like, yeah, I get it. It's funny. Send them to all these people who call themselves sanctuary cities, but at the same time, man, bust those fuckers up and dump them on the White House lawn. Just do it.
Yeah. Why not? No one even like lives there really much. And like there's plenty of space
Looking
in
for
there.
ice
That's what
cream.
I've been saying out here. They've closed a lot of schools and done all this like because they just don't have the kids for it anymore. But they're underfunded still, even though they've closed
Yeah.
like a ton of schools.
Yeah. That's wild.
But I'm like, why aren't we putting homeless people in there? But then you have where some of them are in a neighborhood, right? And then people don't. So there's all that you have to tackle too. But I'm like, there are so many government buildings out there and land. Like, why aren't they? If they're the ones who take care of this, why aren't they doing something with it? Like, I don't know. I don't know what you do because everything is expensive because of the government pretty much, and everything gets worse and worse. And maybe they are trying to ramp it up for like major law and order crackdown on everybody, right? Like
I
what
mean,
are they doing at the Capitol with the like what are those people doing? What does that do for
I just
Israel
want,
or the Gaza Strip?
right. But like, what is the, how does, what is, didn't we just go through this with the, when they tried to sell like the January 6th thing as some massive insurrection and attack on democracy? It's like, okay, maybe plus up the Capitol Police, right? But apparently they still didn't do anything because they clearly walked right in and started
Yeah,
just lining
there's
the
way more
halls.
inside, like cheering. Like
Right.
the other
Yeah.
people
They're
just
like
walked
on, they're on
across.
the ceiling. Like, what the fuck is going? What are the Capitol Police doing? I don't know.
And
I
then
feel like anytime from the time I was a little kid growing up, if I saw an officer of the law, probably went the other direction. Like I didn't try to go through them, right? Because you
right.
think something should happen to you. Apparently like the Capitol Police don't, they have no rules of engagement. They're just there to collect a paycheck. They don't clearly they don't do anything.
They shot that one girl, but
Well, good.
Ashley,
They should have. She fucking asked for it. I don't give a shit about like, there's people who will sit there and say that like, no, actually she fucked around and found out. The definition of fucking around and finding out. Right. Okay. I'll support that shoot all day. But prior to that, like you allowed all these people to just walk in. There's so many videos of just, hey, come on. Like the Capitol Police are like opening the doors for most of these people that walked in. I don't know.
it's bizarre. It's so that's another. I have friends who were there who were media, and they've spent time
Yeah.
in jail because they were there. That's
Yeah,
it.
they're
They were
there.
there.
Well, and then they're also pulling this, of course, because where's the president right now? He just
Oh, is
flew
he
over.
over? He's over there,
He
right, in
flew over to
Israel.
Israel. Yeah, no one's there. No one's there. Uh-oh. Broke my chair. All right. Yeah. So what is your, trying to figure out how to frame that? Well, how does your, when's your election? Let's do that.
November 7th. So like the second Tuesday in November, or whatever,
This
like
year or
normal
next year?
November Tuesday. What?
This year or next year?
This year? No, it's this year. It's
Oh,
coming.
it's
Yeah.
coming. November
3 weeks
7th.
left. I'm so ready for it to be
Oh
over. I'm
wow.
like,
We're gonna get you elected. That's what we're gonna do. This is
hopefully.
what's gonna throw you over the top.
Yeah, and then
How's
I
it
got
look?
so
You got any
I don't
internal?
work. I don't really work. So I'm like, oh God, now I'm gonna have to work. Like it's gonna be a real job.
Yeah. What's the how's it looking? Are you expecting to win or what? Like what's the
I mean, I think it'll be close, but I'm in a good like district where it's definitely a little more conservative and there's just two people running and the other guy almost got recalled and I'm
yeah.
first on the ballot and I'm a girl, I'm blonde, like pretty. I'm like thinking on this stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Because there was like kind of a progressive takeover on this
Yeah.
city council for a while. So the guy running for mayor is a GOP. So he's hoping I get on too. So that was the coolest shit. Is like crazy on Twitter, right? And I have been since COVID. And like all these GOP ladies are, oh yeah, I follow you on Twitter, love you. Like, so it's like I like that they can see, because I'm not one of those people, like I hate when people are like, oh, because I don't have kids, but I would never tell someone else to not have kids, or like be
Yeah.
weird, weird about it. I'm not
Yeah.
religious, but I think religion's important. I'm like that kind of a person, right? So I don't know. We'll see. Everyone thinks I'm gonna win. I'm not gonna. I'm okay either way. But if I don't win, there will be nudes on Twitter the next day. 'Cause I've been trying to be so good. But my account Forest Mommy got banned for a year because I put this like artistic nude in the profile pic. So you can put porn, you can post
Yeah.
porn
Yeah.
on
You can do
Twitter,
that.
right?
But yeah.
But you can't do it in your profile. But and then I kept getting banned, but I think it was political too. But like, and then finally I got that account back, which was pretty cool. That was like,
Yeah. How does that work? Because I just recently lost mine.
the one you're on now or a different one?
No, this is the different one. The big one I
Oh.
lost. I just
I appealed to the Forest Mommy one like every day, and then I had another account called, it was Desert Daddy or something, but I became Terminator Mommy because someone like put picture
yeah.
Photoshop of me as Terminator.
I may have seen that
But
one.
yeah, that, and then that one got banned. So there was like August through December last year. I didn't have any. Every time I made one, it was done. Like they blocked me left and right. I was like, but I just appealed, and then once Elon took over, I
Well,
got the
he's who
Forest.
banned me. Like he's taken over,
I
and
know
now I
he's
get.
banned a ton of people
I
since
mean,
he's been
well,
on.
that's what I'm saying. Like for what I actually got banned for, I'm like, of all the things I've said, that's what I'm getting hit up for. Come on,
Do
come
you
on.
remember what it was?
Yeah,
Do you want to
Well,
say?
I don't.
Oh, you don't have
I'll.
to.
No, I'll tell you. I'll just DM it to you. I don't want people to be like, oh, that's
Okay.
that guy.
Yeah. No, I've had friends get banned for nothing since Elon took over. Like nothing. Like they weren't threatening or anything. I'm surprised I haven't gotten banned again, but I've been luckily once I started running the race, I'm like, all right, chill out. Stop saying like retard so much for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't do that. Like I'm actually, for the most part, I feel like I'm fairly fair. I sent you what I got
All right.
suspended for.
Oh,
But yeah,
good.
like I don't know. I feel like Musk came in and he made things open for a while, but then we're slowly getting that whole back to
The
almost who
reins.
took over. Because like I said, of all the things I've said in my life on that account or on that, I mean, I've been on Twitter since 2009. It's like my third account now, but I mean, just the progression you see of it to where it is
Our
crazy.
state libertarian, it got banned. The like state libertarian
Yeah, I actually
page.
remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so we had lawyers write something because they're like, no, it's actually they had a case, so they wrote, and then they got it back. So I guess if you have a lawyer to write a letter to Twitter,
Right. Well, my friend in Colorado, she's a judge. Maybe I can use her as my just appeal to her. Be like, hey, Renee, can you hook me up? And yeah, no, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just keep every day. I'm gonna be like, because I appealed once, and it was like 5 seconds after I sent the appeal, they're like, we've reviewed your appeal, and we've just like, yeah, no, you're not getting your account back. I'm like, come on. Of all the things I've said, I just think that was pretty funny. Which, ironically, it wasn't so far after, like that's how we found each other because of that whole Jack Posobiec thing. I don't even know how to say his name, but he's such a nerd. Like I
they're
can't take.
all the talking heads are.
They're all grifters, man. Like it's
Yeah,
just
they are all
they
grifters,
just
all
they
of
like
them.
they just take each other's videos and post them to do this whole engagement farming thing. It's just so corny. And I'm like that dude. I mean, he just reminds me, like, because I guess he was in the Navy for a little bit, but he's an Intel Navy nerd. He's probably one of those dudes that would go to the strip club and just try to like, you know, claim his strip club receipt on his travel voucher so he could get reimbursed. Like that's the type of dude he seems. No,
Yeah.
you're just like, I don't know what you're talking about, but no idea. Yeah, not my type of dude. All right, I had something. Let me pull this up, like, because I keep losing this. What? Nope, wrong person. All right. Um, you're running for the Arvada City Council, and okay, so if you don't win, you've already said people are pressuring you to go for the next thing. What's the next thing?
I mean, well, there could be a state, like a state house, state legislator position I
Yeah.
would try for, but my big thing will be because the Libertarian doesn't have a good, like, what have you guys been doing for 50 years? We don't have a good candidate program. So
Yeah.
I would focus on that. And now that I've been, because I went through it basically all on my own, because everyone's like, oh, the Libertarians should do that. I'm like, it's 10 of us. There are 10 of us doing stuff that show up, right? So um I would love to do that and help other people. And we're making a lot of alliances. Like we're trying to like we're friends with a lot of the GOP people now too. I'm like, if you're gonna be liberty minded, who we're not, and everyone blames the libertarians for spoiling things, right? So we're like, if you're gonna actually be a like small government, we won't spoil your races and all that. But I really want to help people who want to do it, who are normal people, because it is hard. That's why normal people don't do it because they don't know how and it's hard and they work and all
Yeah.
this. So I would love to help like the school boards, especially. I'm like, oh, we just need dads who can say no on all these school
Yeah.
boards. Like that's what like we need. So that would probably be next for me if I'm about like if I don't win, we're gonna just like hit that hard. So I have a friend running in a city next to me too, Golden. He's running. He's got more people against him, but and he's our campaigns director. So we've been working close and that would be next. But otherwise, if I just keep volunteering at the party and whatnot and go back to my dumb bitch life. Like,
So I am curious about this because I'm not a libertarian by any means, but I do always enjoy the conversation with libertarians because I want to know how you, as someone who's chosen that, how do you sell it to someone who's not? Because you're going to need, you talk about coalitions, you're going to need that, right? You're going to need to build, or you're going to need to get people from whatever side on your side. So how do you articulate coming over to the libertarian side and putting that uniform on?
so, but like, what I tell people, I'm like, okay, you have the right and the left, right? And everyone's scared of the right and left, but they aren't scared of the right and left. They're scared that the government will force the right or the left on them. So the
Yep.
problem is this apparatus of force. It's not the right and the left because I can get along with all my
Yep.
people we disagree on a lot, right? I can get along with them. The problem is that the government can try and force it on you, and I think that's been the best. People have been responding to that, and I'm especially with COVID and everything that happened, it woke a lot of people up. We're like, oh, the government has way too much power. So I try to not focus left and right so much and just be, it's this you're scared of. Oh, you want abortion rights? Okay, well, guess what? Guess who takes the abortion rights? The government, not the right. It's the government that does that, takes your rights away. It's not whatever, like whatever you think, they always bring that up. So that's always when I say, but that's what I try to say is that it's the government that steals our tax. It's they can literally steal from you and cage you if you don't pay them. Like that's what I try to hit it with is just that it's the government's the problem. We need a barrier between the government and the people. That's probably it. It's probably the best way.
Do you think that from a libertarian perspective that you're going to actually at some point be competitive with the right and the left? But
I'm
when I say right
the
and the left, when I say like I really just mean Democrats and Republicans. Do you think that there's a path?
they'll disagree with me on stuff, I'm sure, because they want to use the government to control stuff sometimes, and
Right.
I don't, and like even in my city, this will come up. So Arvada is there's no pot shops in Arvada, but there is in the county, and it's not. You can go right down the road. It's not a big deal. But I'm sure that will come up where someone's going to want to change that, right? And that'll be a libertarian like principle moment for me. But I also have to look at it fiscally because I'm definitely a like screwed taxes, right? And I have to look at fiscally. We have a small town next to us that they have a pot program, but they're not really making money. The state's taking that money and fucking who
Yeah.
knows what with it, right? But the cities who have to make a bureaucracy to run it, they're not making money. So it's like, I'll have to be able to look at things like that. But the right, obviously, because they think everything went to shit out here because of pot specifically. I'm like, it's not just because of pot, right? Like that has brought so much money out here. It's not even funny. The government took a lot of that money, and the
Yeah.
government's been fucking off with it. Like, so there will be times they definitely disagree with me. I just want to take power away from the government and be a cultural good thing, like Colorado's you can have an abortion until a birth out here right now. Like it's fucked up, right? And I'm like, okay, this whatever about the government controlling shit, but like we need to culturally help people to like make better decisions, right? And to not think these abortion is a magical, I think that word is magical. Like it does something to people. It puts a spell on people. Like even yesterday I
Yeah.
saw with the Jim Jordan stuff, they're like, oh, he's going to take away your right for abortion. You know, right away they're all going at that. And I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, we'll definitely disagree in a lot. I've been told by some of the GOP people I'll actually hold, if the mayor wins, I'll be more small government than him probably. So we'll see what happens.
So because you're always going to be third party, right? So I'm sure that's something you obviously accept on a grander scale. Really the only one with any reasonable shot at being a legit third party contender in our upcoming presidential election now has declared his independency, and that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right? What do you think about him? What do you
I don't know. Like again, I said with this presidential stuff, I just don't have the bandwidth. I like that
Yeah.
he called out stuff, but he just still seems establishment. What but I'm glad he did call out that was important stuff, the with the vaccines and
Yeah.
whatever. But I don't know. I mean, he's hot for his age. Like, bro, got
Yeah,
it.
you want hot people back, so that's good.
Yeah. So I'm like, and he's cut, man.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know like if he would get in how much actual like he wouldn't end the Fed or anything like that. I don't think he's on that. And then what did he say the other day? There's something I saw and I was like, oh, really, bro? But I don't know. And I don't how much change can they make at the president? Like Trump didn't do shit. He let
No, he
COVID
really didn't. He
happen,
really didn't.
right?
He actually grew the government. That's why I keep arguing. I'm like, you do know we have a fucking space force now. Like, what the fuck was the point of that? Like, give me a
Right.
fucking break, man.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's why I'm like, I'm
I
just
think
gonna
we just
focus local and
Yeah,
how the
and you're probably right. I think I think people. I want to say there's a couple of people that always point out like the most important election you can participate in is your local sheriff.
yeah, sheriff is huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's a super important one. Sheriff, and
uh,
then people can even get on like if you're a normal non-authoritarian, get on HOAs, Metro Board, special districts, all these little things you can get on that you don't have to really run a campaign or anything for, and just look at the books and take their power away. That's what I say.
yeah. No, that's a good point because I think people need to focus more. I feel like sometimes like the national stuff is just a distraction, whereas the things that actually affect everyone's day-to-day lives is like you're doing, like it's the local level, right?
Yep. It was
Um,
the health departments that were shut. Like that's something else I want to do. I want to make like a sanctuary city from the health departments. Be like, if they do another mandate, you as a business, you choose, but we're not going to let them shut you down if you choose to not make people wear masks or something like that.
you think that's gonna happen again? Because there's enough people I've known in the last 3 weeks that have just all like, oh, they've all got COVID again. You think like we're gonna get back to shutdowns and
I think so. I think it'll happen
are you
again.
serious? You think so for
Yeah.
real?
I don't know
Really?
when.
Because the election's
Yeah, I
coming,
think it'll
right? So
happen
why
again.
not? Yeah, why not?
I don't want it to, but I think it will. If
It's
people aren't,
fucking that would be ridiculous. That would just I don't think people want to just go through that again on any side.
you would think, but even all the proof you give them now, they're like, they were wrong about everything. They're like, well,
No.
whatever. The same thing as like everyone's like, well, that was the information at the time. I'm like, that's every atrocity that has
Yeah,
happened. They
right.
were like, well,
Exactly.
there's like in Germany, they were like, well, that was our information. And I'm like, you're literally doing the same thing. So I don't know. I think it will. I don't know what it'll either be climate stuff or
Oh man.
a disease or something. We'll see.
I just wish we were still, you know, just independent in this country where we actually resisted stupidity like what I feel like we used to at some point.
Or people thought about stuff. Now they're fed transmissions almost, right? And they just
Yeah. Yeah. Download the latest program, put it in. That's a yeah. So I'm trying to look more at like your local level before we get out of here. Do you see anything at your level that you think could kind of carry over to the rest of the country, or do you think people are always kind of Like at some point, this is just going to not be a whole country thing, and everyone's going to eventually. Because I talk about this, like, where are we in 100 years? And in 100 years, just from my perspective, I don't think we're a United States of America anymore. I just don't see it's. I don't think it's tenable. And I keep
Yeah.
using that stupid word. I don't even like it, but I just feel like people are going to get so fed up with the concept of all these other major cities and bigger states telling smaller, because Colorado's not a very large state. It's kind of right in the middle, right?
It's like 5 million in the state, I think.
Yeah, right. Not a very big state when you look at it overall, but it's important. It is an important state. But I just feel like in 100 years, long after you and I are gone, like we're gonna look a lot like Europe, except everyone has the same language. But every
Yeah.
state's gonna be a different country, or maybe it will be just
You'd be
different
fine
state.
with that. Because all these people bring up, well, the Scandinavian countries. I'm like, yeah, but they have 5 million, 6 million. So I would be fine with splitting up into those sizes and
Yeah.
doing that. But yeah, I don't know what it'll look like. And things that could carry over is just, I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know. Like, there's fucking know the government stuff, right? Like, I'm learning as I go. So,
Just wing it.
winging it.
Winging it. All right. So November 7th, that's the election, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have anything you need to promote? Where can people go to learn more about you besides
On Twitter, Forest Mommy, there's a link tree, Forest Mommy, and then jessicafensky.com is my campaign site for the next month. So that's it.
yeah, you excited? You ready to win? Do you have your campaign? Do you have your winning speech
I'm
ready?
having a party. I already planned
Yeah.
a party. I was so like down in the dumps with how like just hard everything is, and I'm like, oh, I can plan a party for election night. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay.
I'm looking
Party
forward to
November
that.
7th in
Yeah,
Arvada County, right?
about it. The city are about it.
Arvada City. There we go. All right. November 7th. Turn up. All right. Thank you for hanging out at the virtual bar. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Here we go. And